It is always distressing to hear of violent crimes and brutal murders, but it's particularly shocking when it turns out that the person responsible for the violence is a child. We see children as having an inherent innocence, capable of the occasional wrongdoing, but beyond suspicion, when it comes to the most terrible of actions. Unfortunately, this is not always the case. Children have been found guilty, and also admitted to some of the most horrific and unbelievable crimes. Here are 10 of the most dangerous kids who ever lived.
And who are you? I'm the bad guy.
10. Graham Young. Known as the teacup poisoner, Graham Young became fascinated with poisons at a young age. At the age of 14, he confessed to poisoning his family and some friends over an extended period, killing his stepmother in the process. Young spent 9 years in a mental hospital, where he continued to poison people but was declared cured and released in 1970. In 1971, he was arrested for killing 2 colleagues at the firm where he was working and poisoning. In 1990, he died in his cell, at the age of 42. 9. Brian and David Freeman. In February 1995, 17-year-old Brian Freeman grabbed his mother, stuffed some shorts in her mouth and stabbed her to death. His 16-year-old brother David, and their friend Nelson Birdwell, went upstairs and beat the sleeping Freeman's father to death with a baseball bat and iron bar. Finally, they murdered 11-year-old Eric Freeman with a pickaxe handle. The Freeman said they did it because their parents were too strict. 8. Josh Phillips. Phillips was convicted in 1999 of the murder of his 8-year-old neighbor, Maddie Clifton. After her disappearance, community volunteers searched for Maddie, and Joshua Phillips was one of them. Maddie's body was found by Josh's mother, who thought his waterbed was leaking. 7. Brenda Spencer. In 1979, 16-year-old Brenda Spencer shot and killed a school principal and a school custodian. She also shot and injured 8 elementary school children and a police officer. Spencer's father had been advised to admit her to a mental hospital to treat her depression, but refused to do so. Later that month, he bought her a rifle and 800 rounds of ammunition for Christmas. 4 weeks later, January 1979, she committed her crime. When asked why she did it, she said, "I don't like Mondays." 6. Erin Caffey. Erin Caffey was 16 when she arranged for her boyfriend and his friend to murder her entire family. At 2 a.m. on March 1, 2008, Caffey ran out of her home, in her pajamas, and jumped into the waiting car of her boyfriend, Charlie Wilkinson. While she waited, Wilkinson and his friend Alan Wade went into the family home. They shot and repeatedly stabbed Caffey's father, mother, and 2 brothers, later setting the house on fire. Caffey's father was the only one to survive. 5. Edmund Kemper. At the age of 10, Edmund Kemper buried the family cat alive. When he was 15, and living with his grandparents, he shot his grandmother, because he just wanted to see what it felt like to kill a grandma. Then, he murdered his grandfather, to stop him from finding out. He was released from the state mental hospital, in 1969, at the age of 21. In 1973, he was arrested again, for the murders of 8 women, including his mother. 4. Jesse Pomeroy. Jesse Pomeroy was arrested for luring young boys, and, severely, beating them. These beatings started when he was 12, and he was imprisoned at the age of 13. Released to the custody of his mother, just after his 14th birthday, he murdered and mutilated the body of 4-year-old Horace Millen, within a month of his release. He was arrested later, after the body of a 10-year-old girl was found, in the basement, of a shop belonging to Pomeroy's mother. 3. Cindy Collier and Shirley Wolfe. Anna Brackett was brutally murdered, in 1983, by 15-year-old Cindy Collier and 14-year-old Shirley Wolfe. The two girls had only met hours before. The girls picked their victim at random and stabbed to death to steal her car. After the murder, Wolfe wrote in her diary,
"Today, Cindy and I ran away and killed an old lady. It was lots of fun."
2. Mary Bell. In 1968, Mary Bell strangled 4-year-old Martin Brown. As Bell's hands were not strong enough to leave marks, therefore, the boy's death was not classified as murder. 2 months later, Bell, along with Norma Bell, strangled a 3-year-old Brian Howe. Bell returned to his body and mutilated him with a pair of scissors. 1. John Venables and Robert Thompson. When they were both 10, Venables and Thompson abducted 2-year-old Jamie Bulger. They walked 2 miles to the railway track, where they poured paint in his eyes and stripped off his clothes. Then, they mutilated, before smashing his head with bricks and laying him across the train tracks, to be killed when his body was dissected by a train.